All right, beautiful. We're rocking and rolling. Welcome back to another episode of DCTV. This is a throwback right here. The man, the myth, the legend, Kenny the Moonshot was one of our first ever attendees. Welcome on, my friend.
I know, man. It's been a minute. I think I may have christened this when you guys first did this. I don't know, man, 2 years ago maybe. I remember talking about like Taylor Moore at the Masters, and that may have been in 2023. So we're going back a bit.
Yeah, that was one of. He was in the number Thursday, Friday, kind of fell off towards the weekend, but that was an incredible bomb by you. Speaking of bombs, golf season is officially back. This man has absolutely torn up the PGA Tour over the course of the last few years. Just looking at last year's performance, you hit Hovland on a $60,000 ticket. You had Akshay at 65 to 1, Phillips at 70 to 1. Am I missing anything? Aldrich,
Pocketer was the big boy.
That is 800 to win $88,000. That will pay the bills.
Yeah, that was. Money wise, that was certainly the biggest one from last year. But I think I was most proud about that one just because. That was the reason I had as much money as I had on it was that it was a solo bullet. I mean, he was the only guy that I played that week. Typically, depending on the week, depending on the tournament, I'll play anywhere from, like 2-3 guys, maybe upwards of 5 for like the players and maybe the Masters. But I usually do 2 or 3 guys. And for the Rocket Mortgage, I kind of had Potkeeter teed up like a month ahead of time. So I put him out there that Monday or Tuesday when odds went out and just said, hey, like I have one bet for this event. Here it is. And to have that come through in that fashion, man. It's never easy. Of course, we had to sweat like another 6-hole playoff. It seems like every golf outright that I hit has to go to a playoff. So it doesn't really get much more electric than that. But yeah, man, I'm excited. I feel like every year there's more people that are willing to try and at least dip the toe into golf betting, whether they're either dipping the toe into betting or just getting into it more in general. Like more of my friends are playing golf, therefore more of my friends are watching golf. And I've always said this, like naturally, if you're betting on anything, it's gonna elevate the viewing experience, right? It's why people are betting the Kentucky Derby once a year, right? Like they're at the party, they might as well throw the $5 on it. Like if you bet on anything, it's gonna change the vibe a little bit. I just don't think that there's any bigger gap between like the thrill of sweating a golf long shot and the thrill of sweating a bet like in any other sport. Like if I could have any scenario, it's to have somebody like Potkeeter at 100 to 1 in the mix on a Sunday. Like if you're in it for just a little bit of the adrenaline rush, in addition to trying to, of course, make money, but like there's an adrenaline element to this, and I don't think there's a heavier adrenaline pump than having a guy like that in the mix on a Sunday. So hopefully we get a couple of chances to experience that this season.
I have no doubt about it. I would love to pull your historical golf ROI because, to your point, I mean, I'm in the Discord. I see you give out anywhere between like 1 to 5 pre-tournament outrights, 5 in a huge week from a volume perspective, and you've picked off some pretty good ones. For those unfamiliar with Kenny, I'm going to give a little bit of background and then excited to look back at last week's Sony Open and look forward to this week's American Express. But to pump Kenny's tires a bit, he truly is one of the OGs in the space. He has one of the most loyal, loving fan bases I've seen since we started Dub Club. He can handicap it all. Just this past weekend, he hit huge on Mims. What was it? Mims most receiving yards.
Mims most receiving yards. Yeah. And look, I talked about this a little bit when I was live yesterday. Like, I stand by the read. I still think like I had the right idea for him, but at the same time, man, like when you're in this world, like you have to embrace the luck factor and the swings, if you will. Like I've had plenty of beats this year that I feel like I got screwed on. A guy catches a second touchdown and it's called back or something like that. It's just going to happen. And you just have to be painfully self-aware when it does happen in your favor the other way. Like I liked Mims anyway. I thought he was going to have like a much larger role than we had seen towards the end of the regular season. At the same time, I didn't expect Pat Bryant and Troy Franklin to get hurt on the opening drive and therefore open the door for Mims to see all of the action. Right? I mean, like there's obviously going to be some luck involved with this, but I think he was going to score anyway. But that one felt good. That's probably the best playoff hit I've had in in at least a season or two. Like I'm not really I got my playoff volume is so light, and it's kind of there's like a misconception to it too, right? Because I feel like even like friends of mine, like from my area and stuff, most of them are in the Discord, but then the ones that aren't, I'll occasionally get a text like, "Hey man, like I can't watch your show today. Like, give me something today." I get more of those texts during the playoffs and especially for the Super Bowl. And it's just like, dude, like I have a look or two, but like I'm more valuable to you in week 7 than I am in conference championship weekend. So with a really low volume approach throughout the playoffs to get this bomb home certainly felt good. It's probably my favorite playoff hit since Jalen Hurts 3 TDs in the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
Insane. When I talk about Kenny being like an OG, one of the first kind of discords that I ever came across on gambling Twitter. And what I think is so special about you and what you've built, and then we can actually get into the tournament, is we had an event in Chicago that you came out to. Yeah. And you just dropped a message in the Discord saying, "Hey, if anybody's in Chicago and wants to roll through," there were like 50 people there, and they were driving in, 5+ hours just to get to hang out with you and share a beer with you in person. So,
well, the coolest part was the people that you realized like were carpooling together that otherwise like they weren't friends outside of the Discord until they met each other in the Discord, and then they're clearly comfortable enough to hit each other up on the side and and take rides together. Like to me, that was like a clear use case of, oh wait, these guys are friends, So the Chicago thing was awesome. And then I got to give a shout out to my guy Boski. It's probably like my favorite story from that week. We were going into the game and I told everyone knew like we've got tickets to the game. We're going to pregame here, come get a couple of drinks. And before we were heading in, a few of the guys were debating buying tickets themselves. And then Boski on a whim, like on his own StubHub, went and bought 8 tickets and was like, "Hey, like who wants to come?" And then they all went in on his dime. Like that's just
God.
Like it's just the most like kind, ridiculous thing ever. And then we got blacked out at the casino afterwards and got our ass handed to us playing blackjack. But one of my goals this year was to do more of that. Yeah, I think I have a fair excuse. My wife and I had our first baby early 2025. So the social schedule was a little bit chaotic, but I think we had a really, really strong year in Mooney Gang, but I didn't get to do enough of stuff like that, especially in other cities, outside of the Philadelphia area. So that's on my list this year as like a top priority to get those going again.
I love it. I definitely will be attending whenever you can pull one of those off. Between the new baby and the new basement that was paid for with, I forget which ticket, but
literally, I think we pulled the trigger on that like the week after Hovland. I think it was the Hovland. I still hate the fact that I have to call it the Hovland win because like it was supposed to be the JT win and it ended up being the Hovland hedge. But like sometimes you just got to do it, man. But I had JT. I live bet JT after Friday. He made the cut on the number. And this was at the Valspar last year. So he was 110-1 and I blasted him. I watched his post-round press conference on Friday and you could tell he was fiending to get back out on the course. And even making in the cut of the number, I think he was 6 or 7 shots back going into the weekend. He shot the low round of the tournament Saturday, put himself back in contention, and then I think had a 2-shot lead with 2 holes to play on Sunday. And then the wheels kind of fell off the last few holes. We were forced to grab some emergency Hovland. But I'm pretty sure that Monday was when we reached out to the company that ended up building the whole studio I've got down here.
The only thing missing down there is a golf sim.
It was certainly considered.
Well, Kenny, let's dive into a quick recap of last week. First tournament of the 2026 PGA season, Sony Open. Goddard ends up shooting 6 under on Sunday to win by 2 strokes. Any kind of big takeaways from last week's action?
Just that the Goddard heater continues, man. I mean, I think this guy is here to stay. I was sick about it, right? Because this is the second time where it's been the Monday of a tournament, and I'm in my golf chat in the Discord, and usually there's a couple of us that tend to just dive in, a little harder. We kind of put like our first glance at the odds board, 15 names that kind of stand out, and just before we start to narrow it down and dig in. And on Monday, I made it clear I was probably going to just go the long shot angle this week. Sony tends to lead to more long shots. First tournament of the year, it's a little fluky, so I kind of made the conscious choice. Like I'm not really looking at anybody under 75-1. And like legitimately one of the first messages I sent was, if I bet anybody under 50, it's got her up. I think he's the only guy bettable. Somebody went back and found it. I said the exact same thing before the Scottish Open. And that's now 2 tournaments where he was like my first reaction at the board. I didn't click him either time, and he shipped both tournaments. So maybe the lesson there is just go with your gut sometimes. But dude, I think this dude is the real deal. Turned it on really late last year. I personally would have put him on the Ryder Cup team. I think he deserved to be on that team. And I think he's coming into this year with a bit of a chip on his shoulder. And the physical gifts he possesses already puts him, up a leg on 90% of the tour. I mean, I think he had a couple ball speeds that were 190 plus on Sunday. Like, that's just fucking outrageous, man. And until they roll the golf ball back, if he's hitting his irons well and is making putts, like he's unbeatable in certain fields when he has it going. I didn't watch a lot of it. I turned it on because none of my outrights were in the mix. So I think I turned it on at halftime of one of the games on Sunday. And I literally turned it on, got her up, made like a 40-footer. And then Harry Hall, who was in second place, hit it into the rough and then clanked it off a tree. I'm like, all right, that's game. And that was the extent of my Sony viewership. But it was fun, man. I think we made a little bit of money week one, but first tournament of the year, we were pretty aggressively attacking bogey props. I use a tool called Bet the Number. The guys there are out of this world smart. Like, I like betting golf, and I've gotten more aggressively into it the last couple of years because I think the research grind of it is the most rewarding. Now, you can run into like analysis paralysis because there are thousands of different ways that you could look at a tournament. But I love like the Monday to Wednesday sort of homework grind on the golf front, and then trying to make sense of what is a really complex sport. And the guys that Bet the Number are the number one tool that I use there. And coming into it, I made the point to them, hey, I think the bogey props, especially early in the year, like I think these are going to be the softest, especially when you get, really variable conditions. Like, it was windy as shit at the Sony, but the wind was kind of on and off. And some of the data they have on like particular pin placements and like the nitty gritty stuff like that. So that was sort of the plan. On Thursday, we thought hole 4 was going to play really, really hard. It was straight into the wind. Pin was tucked back left. We bet a bunch of guys to bogey it, and then we bet some combined props. And then we did the same thing on a different hole on Friday and made a good amount of money doing that. And really my strategy for the year is to hit enough stuff like that to fund the pot getter bullets, to fund, some of the juicier stuff. Like, when it's all said and done, my goal is to hit 2 to 3 really, really good moonshot outright golf bets. But the path to get there has to be paved by enough of these sort of safer bets. Like, my goal is to essentially break even every tournament that I don't hit an outright winner. So week 1, tournament 1, I'll call that a success. And let's just hope the outright winner is coming.
I love that. Talk to me about some of these smaller markets, more niche markets, in particular with golf. I feel like every year they're adding new bet types. Obviously, you have the track record of the pre-tournament outright bombs, but you've gotten really, really creative with targeting such markets like, single hole bogeys. How have you seen, since you started betting golf, the markets expand, and kind of what are some of your favorite areas to target?
I mean, the whole props, it sucks because I still think they're some of the most attackable markets. It requires this isn't something you can kind of blind bet and then check DK the next day and hope there's money in it, right? It's like, if you're going to do this is because you are locked in for 4.5 hours during a live tournament. You're watching coverage, you've got trackers up there, and you're like staying up to date with sort of the live hole data. Like, after an hour, how difficult each hole is playing relative to par based on, how the golfers have played it leading up to that. I made a gazillion dollars over the last couple of years betting and being able to parlay bogey props. Essentially, I said at the Sony, we identified a hole or two that we thought was going to play significantly harder than maybe the books thought. In the past, you'd be able to round robin them. Like, so let's say I think hole 2 is going to be impossible. I'll see every guy that's listed for hole 2. And then from there, you can narrow it down. Like, for the most part, the hole conditions itself, I think, I have a higher weight for that than how a particular golfer will stack up on that hole. But you can get a little more crafty with it. Like, the one hole we were fading, it was like 195 yard par 3. So here's all the available guys. And then we can even sort them into who is the worst at their long irons, who's got the highest 3-putt potential. And that'll give you 3 or 4 guys, and then you go bet them. So what we would do is I would just find 5 or 6 guys to bogey it. I'd bet them all solo, and then I would round robin them. And it's just like, hey, if this hole is fucking impossible, like either all of these hit or none of these hit was kind of the idea. Like if I think this hole, if I think the wind here could be really, really, really tricky, it's not like, ooh, I'll hit 20% of these. Like I'm doing it because I'm either going to hit none or we're going to go 6 for 6 and literally go insane. And I had a couple last year where I went like 4 for 5, 5 for 6. 2 things happened. One, you can't parlay these anymore. It's maybe like once a year they allow it by mistake, but you can't parlay them anymore. And I am now severely throttled with my betting limit on this particular market. I can't really bet whole bogeys anymore. What I can bet, and I've noticed this, and I'll see how long this lasts, is I can bet combined hole scores. So it's like, it's me, you, and Scotty Scheffler are in a group on Thursday. You can bet individually each of us to bogey the hole at like 3 or 4 to 1, or you can bet the collective score amongst us 3 to be +1 or worse. Essentially, hey, one of these guys bogey it and the other 2 par it. Now you're taking a bit of a discount on the price, but it's a safer way to sort of approach, hey, if I think this hole is going to be really hard. And at least for now, I'm able to relatively cleanly hammer that market. So that's probably the path I'm going to take until either I get throttled there as well, or if I find a new market to play with. But for now, outside of the outrights and maybe some finishing positions, like I think the week-to-week grind to, again, sort of fund the kiddie pool to be able to take our shots in the outright market, I think it's going to be attacking these hole scores on a week-to-week basis, especially when you get weather conditions that I think are, highly variable.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I remember last year, maybe even 2 years ago, you were fiending for action on these DFS sites that allowed you to essentially, parlay 6 guys all going over, under, just
exactly. And they were throttling the payouts on those a little bit, but even then, like, it's still like it was still worth it, right? Like the idea there is, hey, I think this course is going to get destroyed today. The conditions are mint. There's not a lick of wind. Pin placements are good. They got a little rain yesterday. The course is soft. Like every fucking dipshit out there is going to shoot 8 under par today. And that's where you can literally just go and blind click 4 or 5 guys to go under. If you think that overall the market is just undervaluing overall how the course is going to play. And I feel like you're able to do that more often in tournaments where they play multiple courses.
Yeah.
Like at Pebble Beach, they play Pebble, they play Spyglass. This weekend, for example, there's 3 different courses they're going to play, which is, it adds to the chaos. We'll get into this week, but I mean, you want chaos. This is the week to do it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Let's go ahead and jump there. You mentioned Scotty, threw around his name earlier on the stream. This is his first tournament of 2026. He's just ridiculous odds, sitting at +290, with the next closest guy being 18 to 1. Talk to me about what it takes to win this week, kind of how you're thinking through your process for the American Express.
Luck and a hot putter. There you go. That's it. This is like, I think this week is like the least like handicapping demanding. And it's like, if you're someone that like very, very seriously bets golf like myself, it's mostly an off week. You take a couple of shots and then you kind of just forget about it until Monday, because this tournament is just utter chaos. If you look over the last like 6 years, you look at the average price of the average outright winner at any event on the PGA Tour over the last couple of years, like the average outright price for the Amex is higher than any other tournament, and it's like not particularly close. It's because literally anybody in the field can win here. Like I said, they shuffled across 3 different courses. All 3 courses are ridiculously easy. They're playing in a pro-am with 2 amateurs the first couple of days, which doesn't affect like they're not teaming with them like officially. Like there's like a separate sort of contest within that. But it slows pace of play down, right? There's certain golfers that just want to hit it and get up there. Like you look at Ludwig, like he is a fast golfer. You look at Patrick Cantlay, he's a slow golfer. If you are a fast golfer, you're already out of your element here, because like strap in for a 6-hour round. I mean, it's that kind of event. And then you factor in the easy courses. The conditions look like they're going to be immaculate for the entire weekend. This is where it gets complicated, right? Because like I think in like the weirdest way possible, like Scotty winning this would be more impressive than winning the Masters. Like I'm sure he would rather win the Masters, right? But like he's he's more likely to win the Masters than win the Amex. The Masters is a demanding course. Like, you can eliminate 80% of the field once you get to Augusta, because probably only 20% have the tools to be able to compete around there. You get to here, man. Like, it's a who's who of winners. You get some studs. I think Rahm won here twice. But, you know, Nick Dunlap 2 years ago, famously as an amateur, won here. He was like 500 to 1. Andrew Landry was like 300 to 1. Adam Long was even higher than that. Like, there are some serious shitters here, because there's no part of the course is punishing, right? And when that's the case, like, Scotty is so far and away better at golf than everybody else in this field. But it's hard for him to stand out and sort of show that in a field like this, in a tournament like this. So, hey, man, if he wins it, I think it would be impressive. But this isn't a week I'm really all that afraid of him. Overall, I think, you know, however you're going to go about your research, find a couple of darts that are like 200 to 1 or higher, put a very, very little amount of money on them. This is lottery ticket week. And then for the most part, man, like, just kind of see how you're doing throughout the weekend. And I would say from a viewership perspective too, and I talked about how I like attacking these live holes. I'm usually locked in, you know, for hours for each round. That's not going to be the case this week. We only even get the shot link, like the live tracking data, from one of the 3 courses. So if you have a guy that's playing on one of the other 2, like, you're kind of looking at the leaderboard for updates every little bit to see how he's doing. So there's no way to really, you know, live attack this tournament other than maybe like a round leader bet. So that's how I went about it. You know, my typical golf outright bet is like, you know, anywhere from 0.25 to 0.5 units. I'll typically wager anywhere from 0.5 to 1 unit in total in the outright market. And this week, I'm probably going to play 3 to 4 guys for 0.1. And then I'll watch on Sunday if any of them are in the mix. That's kind of the way to go about it. If you want to even narrow it down, the only criteria that I kind of used, I gave a bit of a bump to anybody who just played in the Sony. Mm-hmm. You know, anybody that, you know, it's not their first event of the year. They're not coming in rusty. We at least have, even if it's a really small sample, like some baseline of form. And then anyone that has, you know, bonus points if you've played in this event before. You know, a lot of courses, you know, they call it like a course stickiness. It's like, again, I'll keep going back to Augusta. Like, if you play well at Augusta, like, past success at Augusta translate to future success at Augusta. Yeah. Like, there's some courses where, you know, course stickiness is a huge factor. This isn't one of them because you're playing across 3 courses. However, I do think it's important that you've at least played in this event before, just because of like the novelty of it all, like how long the rounds are. Like, it is a very different experience playing this event as a pro as opposed to, you know, playing the Sony last weekend. So I'm not writing off anybody who hasn't done that, but, you know, bonus points if you've at least played this event a couple of times, and maybe some extra bonus points if you play it every year and like you fucking love this tournament. But short of that, man, I think it's pretty difficult to get overly scientific about this event when, again, the average outright winner over the last 6 years is like 300 to 1 for good reason.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I assume that's really just a product of, 1, course conditions, and 2, it being very early in the year. Kind of as we fast forward later in the season with more predictable events, how much of your process is like purely going off of the numbers and number crunching versus like general narrative? I know on historical streams, you find angles that I just would never think of, and that's why you're as good as you are. Talk to me about kind of the split between model outputs and numbers versus current playing form and other factors.
Yeah, man, I think it's going to vary tournament to tournament. I'm not the world's biggest model guy. Like, I'll again, I think the modeling capabilities on Bet the Number, I think is great. So I'll look at the model that they spit out, and then I'll tweak it and I'll make my own model, just as like a quick starting point. Like, hey, based on the things that you deem to be important here, this is what the model is saying. Now, that's not I'm not married to that list of golfers, but it's just like, it's a starting point. And what I'll usually do is I'll kind of take like a first glance at the odds board. I'll have a couple of guys in mind that I'll make like a long list, and then I'll run my first model and just see if any of them are matching up. Like, oh, okay, like that's 2 points there. But it's really going to vary, man. I think a lot of it too, like if you can live on Twitter, I like the events that have like a much bigger like press focus where there's like a lot of like pre-tournament interviews and stuff like that. That's also going to vary event to event. Like at signature events, you'll get a lot more of that. Like I watch every single player interview that I can get my hands on just to hear in their own words, like where they think that their game is. Now, a lot of it is useless. It's like, it's like when at the end of the second period, they interview the one NHL guy. They all say the exact same thing. Like, got to get pucks on net and got to do this. It's like, all right, like, what do you fuck? Cool. All right. With Goff, you get a lot of the recycled, same bullshit answers, but you will get some candid stuff like, there'll be a player up there and the question's like, hey, like, you struggled early in the year. The last 2 weeks, your ball striking has really improved. Can you talk about that? He's like, yeah, I put a mini driver in the bag. I took out this club. I put a mini driver in the bag. It's going to play really well here. And it's completely changed my outlook off the tee. And, the rest of the games come around. Like, yeah, you can look at the data and it says, hey, his recent form is trending in the right direction. But you pair it with that and it's like, oh, that's a real, like, cognizant change that he made that's clearly translating, and that's, I'm sure, adding confidence. That's one gold star. And I think it's just acquiring as many of those as possible. And then I think more often than not, man, I more so do it on like the elimination side of things. There's a lot of really good golfers. Like, you could probably talk me into and give me a spiel on 90% of the golfers in this field as to why they have a chance to win. And I'm going to have a pretty hard time telling you why that you're wrong. Mm-hmm. So I think it's, especially when you get like at the top of the board, like finding reasons to want to cross guys off and narrow your pool as much as you possibly can. But I think it's a unique combination of obviously highly data driven, and then just a little bit of gut feel, and I think a little more bigger picture stuff. Like the Pock Eater example is, I think, granted, it's a little confirmation bias, but I think it's a good example of how I go about this. Like, I thought the course set up perfectly for him. The last time we saw him before Rocket Mortgage last year was like a month before at Colonial, which is a course that shouldn't suit his game at all. Like, his biggest weapon is the driver. You can't really hit your driver at Colonial. I mean, he played really well there. He hit his irons really well. I do a little bit of research and I find out he has a whole new bag of irons that he had like just started breaking in. And then I found it really peculiar that he had that great performance at Colonial and then didn't play the next 3 weeks leading up to the Rocket Mortgage. Like, I think some people would look at that like, oh, like, why isn't he playing? I looked at that like, they know this is like one of the few events that he is literally built in a lab to compete in. They're treating this like it's a major. Like, I bet you that at the beginning of the year, every golfer looks at the calendar of events, looks at the what options that they have. And somebody like him, you are circling the 3 or 4 courses that suit your game. Yeah. This is one that suited his game. They rested leading up to it, meaning they were working on final kinks to get out, whatever they needed to do. And the form leading into it was great. For me, that was like, a little bit of data, a little bit of course fit, and then a little bit of just sort of intuition, like, okay, like his team is ramping up for this event. This is the week to play him. So, trying to find as many of those, different points to come together. And, it's a lot more fun when it works out.
It's incredible, like the approach that you take and the angles that you identify. And that's why you're the pro and I pay to be in the Discord. So I appreciate all the hard work you put in.
But we got to kill it. I mean, I got to give a lot of credit to the people in there too, man. I mean, what's been exciting is, like, I feel like the first 2 years I was doing this, I almost had to convince people, like, forget convincing them that like I'm good at betting golf and they should tail me. Like, that's step 3. Step 1 is like, hey, watch golf. It's enjoyable. Step 2 is bet a little bit, like within your means, like do some research. Here's the stuff that I bet on, like, see if you like it. And in 2 years time, I mean, like, our golf community has exploded. And I mean, like, I opened the chat on Monday and there's 200 messages in there, like already deep into the weeds on like the shit that I'm going to be getting into eventually. And it's like, they keep me honest. Like, I got people in there that, like, if I'm not on top of my game, they'll show me up.
That is amazing. I remember pre-Masters, maybe last year, you had info from caddies. One of your subscribers knew somebody, like, this dude really is getting info anywhere and everywhere. Kenny's running a 50% off monthly discount. We'll include that on our timeline. That's just for folks to jump in, check things out. He's not going to win hitting outright every single weekend. So it's good to lock in for the long term. But Kenny, I want to transition to, a play or a couple plays that you like for this week, with a little bit of kind of explaining as to why.
For sure, man. So like I said, on another week, I would have like at least a lot more conviction in sort of what I'm selling here, based on everything I've already said. Again, this is chaos week. Sorry, I hear a screaming baby upstairs. And
You're all good.
Like this is chaos weeks. Like I said, do a little bit of homework. Take some calculated, very, very cheap dart throws, and then otherwise save your money for the more handicapable events. But I do have a couple of guys that I think, at least if you've got a couple of dollars that you want to light on fire. My first one, his odds are all over the place. This is the type of guy that you kind of want to bet on this week. And forgive me as I try to pronounce this name. Sudarshan Yelamaraju. That's my single favorite. Who in the fucking world is that guy? Look for this week. Sudarshan Yelamaraju.
I may have to drop his name in the chat. I mean, Jesus, that's a tough one.
Sudarshan Yelamaraju. He is anywhere from 200 to 1 to, I see 450 floating out there. 450. I think I got him at 600 when he opened. And again, it's not like the most aggressive sales pitch, but here it is. He just played at the Sony, so he's got one tournament under his belt. He's a PGA Tour rookie. This is his first time on the tour. He was on the Corn Ferry Tour last year, played very well, graduated. And just his the ball striking data from the Sony is really strong. I mean, he's green across the board. Again, it's 4 rounds of data. When I'm running models, I'm pulling in usually 24 to 30 rounds of data. So you don't take it with a grain of salt. But ball striking was great. He gained on approach. He gained putting. He hits nukes off the tee, despite being kind of like my frame. He's a pretty skinny guy, but can just bomb it. And most importantly, this dude, by all accounts, is just a serious grinder. In an event like this, you want guys that are out there scratching and clawing for every single shot, because this is a type of tournament where 2 shots here and there vault you 30 places up the leaderboard. The leaderboard's going to be so condensed. This is a guy that will fight for every single stroke out there. And even at the Sony, he was kind of out of it on Sunday. I think had either the best or second lowest round in the entire field on Sunday, gave himself a top 5. And a little bit of motivation here. There's motivation for every golfer in the field, right? The better you play, the more money you win. So it's not like these guys need extra. But for somebody like him, if he plays well enough in these first couple events, it can get him into, they call it the Aeon Swing 5. It essentially play well enough these first couple events, and then you get into the field for the signature events. So if he plays well enough, he could get into Pebble Beach. So again, just riding a seemingly hot hand here. He's an unknown commodity just because he's got 1 or 2 tournaments under his belt, but hits nukes off the tee. Whole game is well-rounded. He's a grinder, can make birdies, and played well enough at the Sony to pique my interest. So Sudarshan Yelamaraju, he's 500 to 1 outright. If you want like a top 20, you can get, and I see top 10, including ties, at 20 to 1. I mean, I think that's fine. Again, don't go nuts on this guy. I got a couple names like that. My goal is to wake up Sunday and one of them is lurking around, and I have a 600 to 1 to sweat out. But that was my favorite calculated dart of the weekend.
I love that. Let's just say I would not have gone there at first glance of the board, but once again, that's why you're the best. Any others that you like? If not, I know this is not the week to be going crazy, but if you have anything else, feel free to fire.
Yeah, the only other guy that I thought was, at least justifiable at his price. He's not as much of as a potential shitter as some of the guys down the board, but Lee Hodges. I grabbed Lee Hodges at 250. He's $170 virtually everywhere right now. He just fits the mold of the caliber of player that can win this type of tournament. He's won on the PGA Tour before. One of these guys that usually excels in these birdie fest type of spots. Again, whereas regardless of form, I don't think Lee Hodges is going to compete at the U.S. Open when the winning score is even par. But in a 30 under birdie fest, that's kind of the week you want to deploy him. And he's just kind of feeling it right now. I think he was 6th at the Sony. Last time we saw him before that was at the RSM, late fall, early winter. I think he top 10 there as well. Just combination of, has birdie making steam potential. He is a much, much better putter on Bermuda, and all 3 of these courses are pure Bermuda greens. It's probably the best form that he's ever been in terms of recent results. And just if you compare him to sort of other class of guys that he's around, I just think he had the most win equity. So not as insane as my guy Sudarshan, but Lee Hodges and Sudarshan Yelamaraju were 2 of my first bullets.
I love it. So Sudarshan, I'm seeing a 500 out there. And then Lee, I'm seeing a 170 to 1. So that definitely fits the bill of your approach for this week, really putting the moonshot to good use. I guess I want to close with, first of all, we want you on the show as often as you'll come on throughout the course of the year. You're absolutely going to give out a winner at some point in 2026 on DCTV Live. So I'm very much so looking forward to clipping that. Talk to me about, potential hot takes that you have this year, new names, new faces to look out for. Anything on that front?
I'm curious to see like what Liv looks like, a year from now, right? Obviously, the biggest news between Liv and the PGA Tour was Koepka coming back. I think it's fucking amazing. I've always been a big Brooks Koepka guy, and I feel like I've been one of the guys that like won't let go. I think a lot of people have written him off, and I still think the game is there. I still think the potential is there. So if you want a hot take, like I think Brooks Koepka has the lead in one of the majors going into Sunday. Like I do think, again, it's going to be interesting to see because he's going to play a lot of tournaments this year that when he was a PGA Tour member, he didn't play. Like he had a pretty tight schedule to begin with. He made it very, very clear he only cares about the majors, and everything else is sort of a lead into that. But because of like the status that he has to play X minimum amount of events. He's not going to get any signature events. So he's going to play in a lot of weird spots here. And look, whatever you think about his decision to leave and, where his game has gone, I mean, this is still one of the most competitive people on earth. And, I thought, when they did like the Koepka episode on Full Swing, I mean, it was very clear, man, this is a guy that missed winning. And I think sort of missed feeling like he was the big dog walking around. And I'm buying Koepka stock. I haven't placed them like any future bets or anything like that, but like I'm bullish on what we can see from Koepka. And even if it's like a stack of, a couple of missed cuts here and there and, a couple of top fives, like the ratings are going to skyrocket if like he's, at the top of the leaderboard, like Sunday of Waste Management, like that's going to move the needle, man. And I'm telling you, I would be excited about Brooks. I can't wait for him to come back. Short of that, I mean, there's so many tour rookies, man. Like every year, I feel like the influx of new young golfers just gets like more intense every year. Like it was unthinkable for first year or like even like an amateur to come out and win a tournament. Nick Dunlap does it 2 years ago, and now it's like every like post college grad that comes out here, they're like coming out and setting course records. Like the depth of talent in the PGA Tour has never been higher, and consequently the pressure on the teetering vets like the Joel Damons and those guys of the world who are for year over year kind of clinging to their tour card. That's getting tougher every year, man, because this next class of kids, they're built different.
Yeah, it's great for the sport to have Koepka back. I'm curious to see really what happens with those other guys, big names, whether it be DeChambeau, Rahm, etc.
I'm telling you now, I don't know where it's going to be. Like, if you want one other name, sure, I'm biased. My guy Potgieter, he will win it. He will win at least one tournament this year. I'm telling you right now, like we have not seen anywhere near the peak of this kid's game. I mean, he just got better and better throughout the year last year. He got the first win under his belt, which I think was a huge hurdle and sort of like a huge mental leap. And by all accounts, man, like they created this kid in a lab. If you take one look at his dad, you're like, okay, that's a guy that is not letting him leave the range until shit is sharp. If he stays healthy, I think Potgieter comes out and like it's similar to Goddard, dude. When these guys that just have the ability to hit it so much farther than everybody else, when they put the rest of the game together, it's unfair. Like, is it going to be there on a week to week basis? No, but when they have it, they're going to fucking steamroll you.
Yeah, that. I mean, I saw some stat from last week. Goddard hit like I think 11 drives over 340 yards. It's hard for people that don't play golf or don't watch it consistently to really wrap their head around how absurd that is. But it's literally like a cheat code. So I love that. I love the spicy take. I love Lee Hodges and Sudarshan. And I'm looking forward to many more streams ahead.
And I'll be live tomorrow. I'm going to do a more in-depth golf show on my Twitch channel tomorrow. Time TBD. I'm like kind of ironing out my afternoon now, but sometime between noon and like 2:30 tomorrow, I'll be live on Twitch, mostly repeating a lot of what I just said, but a little more detail. If I add an outright or two, that's where you can get it if you're not already in the Discord. But I'm pumped, man. I mean, I'm going to be aggressively hammering out golf content this year. I think we did a pretty good job of it last year, but now with the studio complete, schedule frees up a little bit once we clear NFL season, and then it's purely golf season with a smidgen of MLB until the summers. And it may not be the most popular season, but it's by far my favorite. So I couldn't be more excited.
To your point, there's truly nothing better than having a 5-hour sweat on a Sunday when a 60-1 is out in play. So
I mean, dude, I've been fortunate enough for across other sports, I've hit some crazy bets in my life, and yet Nick Taylor at the Waste Management, I think that paid me out. I think it was $16,000. Like in terms of total experience, that may be my favorite bet that I've ever hit. I don't think I've ever been more excited to hit a bet. And sometimes it's not just about all the money. It's there's another element to this that I think you got to just be cognizant of and, be careful of, because that's where this gets dicey and you start just blind firing. Right. But I'm telling you, there's nothing like the golf sweat on a Sunday. So here's to hoping we've got a few of those in short order. And of course, hoping we get a few of them home.
The slow burn is what makes it so special. Obviously you became famous for the 2+ TD scores. Those are happening so quickly that you don't really get to deeply enjoy them, stress them, sweat them, etc. John from Dub Club threw your Twitch link in the chat here, so I have that shown on the screen. Everybody go throw Kenny a follow. Tune into his streams. It's a wealth of knowledge. He's got the 50% off 1 month discount running that will be released tomorrow across our socials, so make sure to check that out. And Kenny, thank you for taking the time, my friend.
Anytime, brother. Again, anytime you call and you want to talk golf, I'm going to be there. So just keep me top of mind.
Yeah, hell yeah. All right. Have a great night, my friend. See ya.
Peace, guys. Thanks.